Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trendy with Allison. I am excited to introduce Amy Whitaker, a blonde hair specialist from San Antonio, Texas, with over 15 years of experience. Known for her hilarious reels and down to earth style, Amy's mastered everything from balayage to color corrections. She's a wife, a mother, and brings fun and creativity to all she does. So let's get inspired, everybody. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction.
Oh, of course. You deserve that introduction and more for entertaining us over social media the way you do. I'm sure we are all happy that you're here.
Well, I'm so excited to be here, like literally so excited.
Aw, I love that. So let's start, Amy, with your journey into hair. You've built such a fun and unique space in the hair world with your content, but let's rewind a little bit. What first inspired you to do hair?
Oh gosh. I've always been doing hair, whether it was with my Barbies or, I remember taking like an actual, razor for your legs doing this like when I was 7 or 8. My mom's screaming at me. But I've always been really into hair, and I actually told my parents I wanted to go into hair school. But then they were like, "That's nice, honey. Let's talk about it later. Go to college first." And so I have my degree in art education, and it took me a while to get it because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I just always considered myself an artist than anything. So it's like, I'm a hair artist. But basically, after I graduated, I was like, all right, I did what you guys wanted to do. And this was back in Florida. I went to University of North Florida, and then moved up to Chicago to, start my hair journey. It was Pivot Point International. I really wanted to be in a place more where there was like more high fashion, runway shows. And I was either thinking New York, Chicago, or LA. And I have more support in Chicago, and my mom was there at the time. So that's when I moved up there. And then I became a colorist at Art and Science Salon, which really, just mind-blowing experience. Really, it was a specialized salon. So you came to me for color and chemical, and then a stylist for somebody who specializes in style and cuts.
Amy, you specialize in blonding, balayage, gray transitions, and color corrections. What draws you to these areas, and how do you approach transforming a client's look in such a personalized way?
Um, Basically, a lot of people come to me and it's all about consultation. I really sit down and I listen to them about what their hair journey has been, like what they're trying to get to, how often they want to come and see me. And I get a lot of the low maintenance clients where sometimes they want to come and see me, once or twice a year. And I always say with a good balayage, whether it's 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, it should always grow out really nicely. And it's really more of a personal preference. But the big reason why I got into gray transitioning and gray blending is because of that low maintenance. I had people coming in and they're like, oh, like I really want, I don't want to come in every 4 to 6 weeks. I love your balayage, but they're getting this nice, hard line of demarcation. So that's when I kind of started transitioning into gray blending and helping them out, so they didn't have to come and see me as often.
Did you train under Jack Martin or any of those gray transformation educators, or did you just
No, but
kind of
I
pick it up
love their
on your own?
Instagrams. I think, they are amazing and geniuses. A big person that, funny enough, I was doing semi-permanent color for gray blending before I found her, but M-Chem hair or
Oh, yeah.
M-Chem hair,
Uh-huh.
she she does a lot of the same stuff I do, and I get really inspired by her, and I just love her videos. But I definitely know who those people are who you're talking about, and they are just so big in the industry, and I really do think that they're kind of changing the way we think about gray hair, which before it was this oh, only old ladies and,
Yeah, I know.
like have gray hair. And then, of course, these guys are having gray hair and they're silver foxes. So I think, we're kind of slowly seeing the change where it's like, okay, young women can have gray hair. Like, it doesn't mean that immediately when we have four hairs, we have to like be coming into the salon, every 4 to 6 weeks to make sure that they're covered. So it's
Yeah, and that, also that, translucent grow out, even the way we're covering gray is a little different today. We're not going so opaque,
right.
so, heavily pigmented, if you will.
Yeah.
So, if you can but convincing your clients of that can be a little tricky because they want it gone. They don't wanna
Yes.
see one single trace.
Yes. When I started doing more gray blending, I kind of started putting it out there on my social media, and then I started getting people who were interested in gray blending. And then once I really started doing more of it throughout my clientele, I was like, you know what? These people that I have that are already my clients who are gray coverage, I think they would really benefit from gray blending. So it has been, an interesting kind of conversation between those clients, because they think that gray blending is like you can see the grays, but there's so many parts of gray blending. I mean, you can, or they think that you have to do highlights or something like that. But brunettes can do gray blending. And what's nice is that it actually leaves like this really soft kind of dimensional hair. And I think once they realize that, it's a softer grow out, but and the reason why is because it's not that complete opaque, as you were saying, like solid line, and then all this beautiful dimension coming in their new growth. So now with that dimension kind of showing through, and it's not gray, it's like more of a caramel or anything like that when the color starts fading off. But since it's dimension and dimension, it's a lot softer line. And so once they kind of get into that and they see that, they're like, okay, I'm sold. But what I usually do is I will, whenever I say, hey, we should try this, I guarantee my work. So I'm like, if you wear it for a week and you're like, forget it, I don't want to see it anymore, I do it for free for them coming back. But I've only had one person out of so many come back and want to do the opaque color.
Well, and for clients, finding a stylist with integrity is not always easy, and that's part of their frustration and why they stop trusting professional
Right.
stylists,
Yes.
which
100%.
separates you from probably 10 other stylists in your area, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for our new hairdressers coming into the industry, that's one thing to remember. We all want to get paid. We have to make a living doing this, but you
Mm-hmm.
still have to stand behind your product. You have to stand behind your work because if you don't, that can go horribly wrong. So you
Yes.
do not just gray transitions, but you do balayage, you
Mm-hmm.
do color corrections.
Yes.
What percentage of your clientele is what? Are you doing mostly balayage, mostly gray transitions, color
So
corrections, or even?
I would say it's pretty even. My clientele is around my age. I mean, it's in between, like, I would say 30 to 50 is kind of where my clientele is. And that's mainly because I get most of my clients from moms groups and, moms kind of referring each other to me. So I do a lot of balayage, but then when people are wanting, more of the balayage in here or like just a money piece and have this more rooted, but they're still worried about the gray up here, then I'll continue doing the gray blending with that. As far as color corrections go, just lately I've had to shut down my books, which I know we've talked, like I've heard you talk about, shutting down books and raising prices, and there's a reason for that. But so I have been having more of my regular clientele come in. So a lot of more color corrections, but I haven't been doing as many color corrections as I have in the past.
Oh, well, that's good. That means that your loyal following, they don't need to be corrected. That's what that means,
It
right?
it
You're not
it
getting
has
a
been
bunch of
nice,
new
yeah.
people. Yeah, that's
But
good.
I always say if somebody comes to you with a problem and you can fix it, they're yours forever.
Oh my gosh. Well said.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so breaking into content creation, let's move there because that's one of the things that caught my eye. One thing I love is comedy, and your videos bring me life. They bring me joy. I love it. What made you decide to start creating reels and bringing humor into your career?
Um, so I've always been a person who's, an extrovert, kind of out on the stage, like performing. I was a thespian when I was, in high school. And so a lot of that is, just kind of within me. But really, I really wanted to start kind of reaching out to people because I was doing a lot of hair reels, like where it's like you pull the hair and then you clip it to the final product, and I just wasn't getting a lot of views, and I really wanted to kind of bring more people to my page, and I found that humor really makes the scroll stop. Basically, if you're being
Oh,
goofy
yeah.
and funny and really kind of being relatable and like the things that are happening in your life and you're like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? But then somebody is on that scroll and you're just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like they tend to kind of get that. And I'm definitely more on the education side of everything, and I found that my educational videos, people were scrolling past, I wasn't getting enough stuff, so I started doing more funny videos and then educational captions.
I love that. Well, hey, it hook, line, and sinker. I'm in 100%. I
Oh,
am
good.
a lifer. So let's get into some of these funny reels of yours. Oh my lord, hilarious. So let's talk first about the let's see this one. I mean, how relatable is that? Honestly. What was the inspiration behind this one?
So I full transparency, this is from somebody who I saw scroll past, and I love the caption. They did something different. Anytime I hear an audio and I do copy it, I always try to tag them or do something a little different. But yeah, I just thought I resonated with it and I wanted to do my own, but it is something that as a hairstylist, we're always trying to better ourselves, and we're always trying to be, you know, I think the greater hairstylists are the perfectionists, unfortunately. And sometimes it can be like an OCD kind of thing. And so, when we can see every little section that we do and every little tone, and we know what we see, what gives us joy and what, like, we're like, we could do a little bit better, but then our client is so happy.
I
So it's kind
know.
of this like unbalance where we're just like, okay, I mean, there's been times where I've done hair and I'm like, they're never gonna come back and see me. I've lost them forever, and then they're a lifetime client, because they love it. That's what they wanted. And, and then of course I love it when they can come back and then I can give it to them even better.
Yeah, no, totally relate. So relatable. Alrighty, Amy, let's talk about the cost of doing business video.
6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. 7, 8. 8.
Love that. Love that. Tell us a little about this one.
Yeah. So, I've been in several salons, commission salons, and booth rental, and all that kind of stuff. But this is my first time owning a suite, and then hopefully, a larger salon with chairs in the future. But you really have to know the business side, and a lot of what we make, we put it back into the business. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, like even just behind me, you can see like all the color that I have. I mean, that's probably a good, at least $5,000 worth of color, and, back bar, all the products, if you're doing retail. I mean, the shears, I went through 3 blow dryers this year, and, those are $300 each. So it's a lot of times I feel like there is this kind of culture where people are like, hairstylists are so expensive now, and this is ridiculous. I used to pay, like $75 for a whole thing, and now it's like $250 just for, like highlights or whatever. There's a reason for it. I mean, we have to pay so much to run a business. And I actually have a commissioned stylist, so I have to pay taxes to pay her. So there's just, and I think the reason why that went so viral is because everybody, not just hairstylists, but like all small business owners out there, I mean, they're just really feeling it right now. And it just seems like when you have that big old pile of cash at the beginning, like the service is like 123,000, and then all of a sudden you're left with 8 cents. I mean, that's it. It's obviously, a joke, but it is.
No,
very,
it's
very
actually
true.
very close to being true, especially for us in our industry. I always say it's the only industry where even though it doesn't matter what the market is doing, what the economy is doing, how much more we have to pay for our products, for our rent, we're supposed to charge the same amount that we've always charged from way 20 years ago up to the future, right? We can never charge any more than we've ever charged. And in a client's mind, that seems to be justifiable, yet they will go and buy a handbag now that went from costing $500 back in the day. Same handbag is now $3,000. They'll pay for that,
Yep.
but they don't want to pay 1 red cent more for hair, period.
It's interesting because that you mentioned that, just for the fact that my apprentice, who is now getting on the floor, she's assisting while she's building up clientele. So she has 2 days on the floor. And, she came to me, and like we went out into the hall, and she was just like, should I not charge her for the cut? Because I just did a little tiny bit. And I was just like, well, I mean, did you section her hair? Did you go through, all that? And she's like, yeah. But it was just a little bit. And I was just like, that handbag in there? Do you know how much that costs? And
Okay.
she's like, no. I was like, that bag is about $5,000. She paid
Yep.
$5,000 for that bag. And, and she can afford your $55 haircut. I mean, come on. But it is true. I mean, I think it's because it is a customer facing, and we are the ones setting the prices, right? So like the corporate places and things like that, they're not actually talking to the owner when they're purchasing their Starbucks drink, or when they're, purchasing their Louis Vuitton bag or whatever it is. And so they're actually talking to the owner and the person who's setting the prices, and they think that they can, bargain with us. And it's unfortunate because we do have to stay strong, because that's our business. I mean, why are we paying for you to get a haircut? Because that's our time. We're paying
Yeah.
you to get a
Yep.
haircut. We're giving it away for free. So we have to kind of think about that, and be confident in what we set our prices with.
Yeah, and absolutely. And knowing that you went to school to learn how to section that hair out and do a baby trim or and I don't care if it's an eighth of an inch up to 5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
You're still sectioning. You still have the shears in your hand. You are still expected
Yeah.
to cut straight lines to give them a beautiful shape in the end, because clients don't pay us for what we take off. They
Mm-hmm.
pay us for what we leave on. And if you
Mm-hmm.
left your client with
Great
a
way.
beautiful, right? If you
Yeah.
leave her with a beautiful look that she's happy with, her hair is healthy, then yeah, you did a service and
Right.
you deserve to be compensated for that service.
Yeah. It's hard when you're new to get that, but I think the more and more you are confident and you create those boundaries, it's a lot easier to talk about pricing. and really hold firm, because I mean, that is what you said. I mean, student loans and, you know, all the education. I mean, I'm paying over $1,000 in education, you know, this year alone. And next year I already have half of it set up, and that costs money. Do you want me to be like on trend and, you know, like have the best techniques? Well, it costs me money. So I'm not going to eat that cost.
Well, and they say, well, the price, you know, you guys are everything gets passed down to the consumer. Yep, starting at the very top. In the last I checked, I'm not Jeff Bezos. So when I order from Amazon, I'm also the consumer. I'm
Right.
not the creator of the Dyson blow dryer or Schwarzkopf color line. So I am also a consumer. Yes. So yes, I have to invest in all of these things
Yeah.
and pass it on if I am doing business as a business owner. I don't think anybody goes into business to break even. How would you live? You know? So yeah, I wish that honestly could be an entire episode in and of
Right.
itself, just talking
It
about
should
that.
be, because I think experienced stylists, they have a hard time, especially with the economy right now. You know, people are complaining about grocery prices, and then, you know, then they're coming to us and, you know, complaining to us about grocery prices, not even asking us for a different price, but then we start to feel bad. But then we forget that we're in the same economy too.
Oh, I'm an emotional charger. I'm
Oh yeah.
100%. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, she's going through a divorce and oh my God. And I feel so bad. You know, it's like, yeah, but you canceled within 24 hours and now I'm not going to get paid for this hour. So, but why am I feeling bad? And
Right.
it's so funny because I remember all of my friends are great. No one expects a discount from me. Thank God, because they all understand. They're corporate business women killing it in the world. They understand business. But I had
Mm-hmm.
one who does not. And she is the only friend that does not come to me because she asked me one day, well, how much would you charge me for this? Me, the emphasis is me.
Like, yeah.
Well, I would charge you, the client, because we're not at happy hour right now. We're sitting in the chair that I have to pay for, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I would charge you what I charge for the
Mm-hmm.
service, right? And so she was so mad. And here was my explanation for her. And I've been able to use this and it has been effective. And all the stylists that I've mentored, I've passed it on to them. Ask that person asking for a discount. What do? You're a nurse? Okay, great. Nurse. Is there an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in your job that you take a pay cut and get paid nothing for me? Do you make that sacrifice in your job?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I asked her. And she
And
never
that's,
came to me again.
you know what, and that's good on you, because if she would have came to you, you would have still and then that puts it on us, and it's not on us, it's not.
Right.
But people always joked around a little bit about, because I was in a commission salon before I got into the suite here, and my husband, I could cut his hair at home, but he wants to come in and get the head massage and the whole experience and the hot towel. And so I was like, great, come in. I'm going to charge you full price. We did a rate per hour commission. Yeah, I don't know if, you know, if anybody's familiar with that, but basically it divides all of the money that you make for the hours that you make. And so your commission is based on that. So if I do a free haircut, which is an hour, and then I have $0 for that hour, it brings my whole average down. So, and people were just so shocked that I was charging my husband full price. And I'm like, no, it actually, it comes from the same bank account, obviously, but him paying $45 for a men's cut actually is less than what I would be making later on, you know, because my rate per average went down, and then I would lose percentage points in my commission. So, you know, and I was shocked that people were shocked that I was charging,
Well,
you
you're
know,
like,
full
but
price.
this is for me, right?
Right.
This is gonna you know, this is a part of what makes me successful. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't I expect my husband of all people to
Yeah, and
support me.
he's number one supporter. So he's like, "You want me to, charge me extra? I'm fine."
Yeah, it all comes out in the wash. You're getting the
Yeah,
money back anyway somewhere
right,
down the line,
exactly.
right? So
Mhm.
let's that's great. I love that conversation on the cost of doing business because as I said, that could be its own episode. In fact, we may do that episode, who knows. Let's get into some of your other reels, Amy. This one, which I thought was really funny, wandering at the shampoo bowl, so hilarious.
Looks bad? Is it bad?
Do-do-do-do, da da da. It's all.
I can't wait to see.
So those are cute because they're so short and sweet.
Mhm.
What made you decide to go? And we can all relate to that, right? Your client is when you get quiet, your client's like, "Uh oh, is everything okay?" Do you ever get that?
Yeah, it's so what's really funny is that, I became a hairstylist a little bit later on, and I was a client for so long, and so I was always nervous at the shampoo, and I was the person who was like, "How does it look? How does it look?" And so I can relate to that. I can relate to, obviously both sides, but you get the people who, are a little bit newer, or they have had, some struggles finding a good hairstylist, and you can tell that they're nervous. But it whenever I'm giving a massage or anything like that, like I am constantly on. I am constantly on. I am double booked all throughout the day from, the time I walk in to the the time I walk out. And it's like the only time I have that like kind of, brain break is when I'm massaging at the shampoo bowl.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. I love that. And that's part of content creation. I think sometimes it's so easy that it's hard, and look how simple that was, that you gave us that 7-second reel that is so relatable.
and I think that's what it is. It's you just have to find something that's relatable. And because I mean, there's so many things that you can make content with, and I've made content and it's not gone anywhere. And I find that the ones that go viral and the ones that do really well are the ones that are people are like, "Oh my gosh, that is so me. I do the same thing." So, I mean, like most of my day is, me talking to clients and being like, "Oh, I can make that a reel."
That's awesome. I love it. Alrighty, and lastly, because we saved this one for last for a reason, because this is heavy, or it's heavy adjacent,
Yeah.
depending on how you move in this topic, right? Alrighty, so this last one is the hairiest of them all. So we saved that one for last, and that is the dreaded political conversation behind the chair, you
Mhm.
guys. Oh my gosh. And Amy, you made a reel about it. And you got some pretty dicey comments because,
Yep.
people jump all over this. Let's look at your reel first.
Laugh out loud. Laugh out loud.
Yeah. So, what were you thinking when you made this reel? Were you afraid? Were you like, oh no, what is this going to do?
I like I said, so pain points, right? Like everybody, it's there's certain pain points that really attract viewers, and I mean, in a way, it was kind of gaslighting people, like, but not in a way that I thought it was going to be. I think that it is such a strong subject right now. I mean, it is ridiculous how people, are just on both opposites of the side. I feel like actually most people are in the center, right? But then
Mhm.
it's the people who are on the opposite sides are who are the loudest.
Yep.
And but I just wanted something that was really short clips. That I mean, it was like literally a 2-second video, and I was like, laugh out loud, ha ha ha. But and then in the caption, I talk about how I never talk about politics in the salon. So many times people bring it up, and it is kind of one of those things where I have to smile and nod, or like, ha ha ha.
Mhm.
And even if I agree with them, I don't engage. And a big reason why is because I am somebody who double books. And so I always have two people in the salon. So let's say I do engage with this person or both people if they're talking about it and I agree with them. The next time they come in, there might be somebody on the opposite side of the aisle. And then who loses? I do, because the person who wants to engage with me, wants to talk about it. And if I just like act like I'm not going to engage because I've engaged before, then they think I'm being ingenuine. And then the other person, if I do engage, then they feel isolated and not safe in their place, So I really do think that politics should be completely out of the salon. I think that the whole conversation of it makes people tense up, and it is a very, very sensitive subject. And, we're here to make people relax and feel good. And like when they walk out of the salon, they're like, and if we're talking about politics the whole time, they're going to be like,
I agree. And I did another solo episode where I talked about that, especially to my audience who are the next generation. It's like, you can change that. I mean, there's something about I call it my inner cringe monster. It's in there, and there are cringeworthy moments, and talking about politics is one of them, because we are less divided than we think, but the ones who are extreme are the ones who actually get heard, and it pulls you, whichever side you're on, you kind of get lumped into the extreme version of said side.
right.
And for me, I think the healthiest mindset is to, because I noticed in the comments of the video you posted, this whole notion that we call ourselves a liberal, or we call ourselves a, all of these political labels. It's like, your name is your name.
Right.
Like, regardless of who I vote for, my name is Kim, period.
Right. Yes.
So it's just so ridiculous. You walk around with these labels and these bumper stickers and hats and t-shirts, and it's like, this is the highest office. This is the most important job in our entire country, and it's become entertainment.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so true. I mean, one of the comments in that section was like, people are going back and forth and saying like, well, I don't get my hair done if they look like a liberal, or I don't get my hair done if, they look like a conservative. I'm like, who are these? Like, who looks, I'm like, are they picturing, somebody with the Karen cut with like a MAGA shirt, and then like there's another person who like is flying a rainbow flag while they're doing their hair? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, who looks like this? And then one other comment was like, I only have conservatives do my hair and liberals make my coffee. And I'm like, do you ask? Like,
well, and exactly. And it's like, do you understand how elitist you sound? Do you understand how ignorant you sound, and how insanely racist you sound when you say things like that, And it's like, we've all been here for quite a while now. I mean, but we're still just debating and hating each other for things that are just beyond our control. And so it's silly. And if I am a child right now, and this is what is shaping me, it's scary.
Yes.
For I feel the future. And we'll never get an opportunity to, I don't know how we bridge this gap, because it's so wide now. And they assume that if you're a certain race, that you think one way. They assume that if you are a certain financial status, economic status, you think one way. Right. All of these assumptions when no one knows the truth, and yet you're debating it.
Yeah, it is crazy, because I do have people who assume that I'm one way, and then another person assume because I don't, am I neutral? Like, what? I don't. But like, it's just so funny that like people will just start talking to me like, right. And I'm like, no, that
you're like wrong. Yeah.
And I'm just like, like, can we just change the subject real quick? Because like, it makes me uncomfortable. And what's funny is that reel, a lot of my clients watch my social media. And so a lot of them have been like, oh, hey, I saw that reel. I know I'm not supposed to talk about politics, but they start talking
And
and
you're
I'm
like,
like,
did
this
I
is not
just
the point.
open the door? Like, what did I do? Maybe I should have left it unsaid. I mean, it is just a dicey subject. It just is. And me, unless I've done a client literally because I've been in it now for 29 years, if you have been with me 25 of those years, it's still uncomfortable.
Yes.
But I have to be like you're part of my family comfortable to really want to open up that can of worms. And to your point, doing business, you don't know who's waiting, who's within 500 feet, 50 feet of this conversation. And it would not be worth in any circumstance from a business perspective to lose a client over a conversation about politics. That's
Right.
just my advice to
Especially in
anyone.
business. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. I mean, there's several people who, yeah, I'm actually kind of envious of certain people who can just speak their mind and they're like,
Yeah.
bye, see you later. But it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not made of money. I want as many people
Yeah.
as I can. I mean, if somebody's being absolutely inappropriate and they're saying some really hateful stuff, then yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want them in my salon. But,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people with different political views that, they're good people.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want to know your political side. I want to know about your family. I want to know what's going on in your life. And I'm sorry, but unless you're in like a political figure, that's not what's going on in your life. So talk about
Absolutely.
something else.
Yeah, and you're losing friendships, family members over people you don't even know.
Mhm.
So that's the other like silly part. So, whew, okay, I think we got through that pretty good, right? Like, oh goodness, that is such a monster. My word. So, let's dive into your challenges. Like what every journey has its challenges,
Yeah.
political conversations being one,
Yeah.
our ups and downs. What are some of the biggest challenges you face in hairdressing and content creation? And that being one, but what are some of the others, Amy?
So the biggest challenge of my career I've moved around with my husband. I went from Florida to Chicago and got married to my husband, and we moved to Denver, and then I followed him to Madison, Wisconsin, and now we're here in San Antonio. So I've had to rebuild every single time, and that's challenging in itself. And there's different communities, and and you're different places in your life. I mean, when I was in Denver, I had mostly young professionals as my clientele.
Mm.
And then when I was in Madison, I ended up having, I had 3 kids all at once. I had, a 2-year-old, I had a 2-year-old and then had, infant twins. And so it kind of kept me out of the salon for a little bit, which I kind of had to think outside the box. And that's when I started doing on-site locations for wedding and hair and makeup. And so that's what brought in a ton of income and I could do it on the weekends. And then somebody could help my husband with, the kids because they were bonkers at the time. And then moving to San Antonio, I was like, all right, the kids are getting older. We can put them in a daycare. And then COVID happened. So, I had to take a little bit of a break with that and got into some other businesses, but of course came back to my love of hair. But, the whole content creation was, part of that building up clientele, getting more visibility. My goals have changed. Being a parent now is such a huge challenge. I mean, before I could work, I did work when I was a color specialist in Chicago, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and didn't have to worry about it. My husband could feed himself, it was,
Right.
but now it's, I have 3 kids and they like different things and they do different sports and they get out of school at like freaking 2:45. And
Oh,
so now my day starts at 7 a.m. and I get scheduled. I usually try to schedule myself at 2 o'clock, at the end, but then I always go over, so they have an after school program. But just all of that, trying to navigate that. And even, with this interview, it's like, okay, I have to make sure my kids are picked up, and then we have doctor's appointments and then swim lessons. And it's just, it's a wild ride, but then, you adapt and you figure it all out.
So if you could recommend to a stylist who has a husband or a partner who takes them, who is, you never know, right? Where the job is
Yeah.
going to take
Mm-hmm.
your spouse, what do you recommend? Because you are having to rebuild each time you move.
Uh,
That can't be easy. Are there any, what's your number? What is the first thing a person should do once they step foot in said new town?
Um, so, I've definitely done a lot of things that have worked and a lot of things that haven't. So I do feel like I have this like little playbook of exactly what it is. But I think that, we're in a different time now. I mean, like 10, 15 years ago, you had to, I remember when I was still building up my clientele in Chicago, and I have a stack of cards like this big, and I would just,
Yeah.
pass them out to all the businesses, and really try to have a social life to like go out there. But now we can reach so many people with social media and not have to physically touch them. And that's what's
Yes.
really amazing. So, and I'm not talking about just content creation, because content creation is amazing and it does bring a lot of views, but like there is something formulaic about it. You have to make sure that you're getting the right audience, and, you're making, these little 3-second clips to go viral or whatever it is. But I'm talking about like Facebook and Facebook groups. So whatever, and you don't have, I'm going to give you an example of, now being a mom, I went into, the mom Facebook groups, and I use those groups for my own, personal things like what's for dinner, da 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 da. But you can use those as, advertisements too. A lot of the moms groups, and I mean, I'm talking like if you're really into tattoos, there's tattoo groups, there's
Hmm.
whatever local groups that you have. There's usually a day for advertising. So a lot of times it's Saturday or Sunday. And what I usually do is I try to, you know, show who I am, of like, okay, I'm, Amy, and I have these 3 beautiful, crazy, kids. And, I do this, this, and this. I'm going to be there. I can give you a day of relaxation. A big reason why I was in my last commission salon, it was actually in an athletic club. And I wasn't really into like being in a salon in an athletic club, but I was a member there, and I asked the manager because there's a daycare there. So I asked the manager, can non-members use the daycare there? And she said, I think so. Yeah, I think that's not a problem. And I just ran with it. So
Love
every
it.
Sunday I was just like, hey, like all my mom friends, are you, wanting to, get your hair done and have, free childcare while you do it? Come on in, and, I'm happy to take care of you. And then of course there has to be like a certain amount of skill and talent and like personality to keep
Sure.
that client. But that's what drove a ton of people in. And then of course referrals, I mean, you can't, referrals are priceless. I mean, every
Absolutely.
every client that walks out that door, you have to ask for referrals. Let them know like, hey, it really helps me out. And then even just doing like honest reviews on Facebook groups, because that's when people, because there's only so many advertisements that you can do that people are like, okay, like I'm finally going to go. But if somebody who is an actual client goes and reviews you on Facebook, and they are not getting paid or anything like that, I mean, you can give them a little, like a little percentage off, or like $20 off or whatever for reviews. But that is what brought most of my people.
Interesting. So Facebook, the one that I don't use, I hate Facebook, but it's
It's,
still very valuable, isn't it?
I mean, that's the whole social thing.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing about that is that I found that a lot of times people will go onto there and then start doing the advertisements, like literally just go into the group for the advertisement days. The problem with that is that you actually need to engage well before that. So even if you comment on somebody's like what's for dinner, or if you like I said tattoo, like local tattoo group or whatever, even if you're like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing tattoo, what happens is that you have created a connection with that poster, and so when you advertise later, it's going to show up on their feed. So if you're just putting advertisement and not adding anything to the group, then you might as well
Yeah,
not do it.
they just
So like
yeah.
actually be a part of the community, be a part of the group, be genuine, and that will actually help you with the algorithm, getting more views.
And I think that's a full circle moment, honestly. I think the reason why social media was created in the first place was for that exact reason, is to be genuine, to engage with one another, to be authentic. So the fact that it's come full circle, because we always figure out a way to make something toxic. That's what we do. We in this country, we do that so well, right?
I'm in a love-hate relationship with social media. It is
Yeah.
unfortunately essential part of being a business owner, but personally it's draining and sometimes
Mhm.
troubling, but how do we fix it? How do we fix it?
No, I mean, it's too late now.
I
Like,
know.
there's no turning back? Let's talk about your balance and career, because I feel like organically that's kind of where this conversation is moving. And you answered a lot of my questions just in the challenge part of
Yeah.
your journey so far. But you're a wife, and I know that ain't easy because I'm a wife and a mom, and just balancing family life with working behind the chair and creating content. How do you juggle it all? Because I know creating content is very time consuming,
Yeah.
since I have thrust myself into content creation. I don't necessarily like the term content creator, or
Yeah.
not necessarily the term, because I like that term better than I do influencer. But it's synonymous with what we're trying to do. If you're trying to build a business, this is free advertisement, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to create content, hence making you a content creator, whether you like the term, don't like the term,
Yeah.
want to be one, don't want to be one. It's what you are if you are doing anything at all successfully on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so what I do. So what I used to do is I would drop my kids off at school. I would rush to my studio, and then I would like try to film something. But then, my client would come in early and like halfway through, and then like sometimes I wouldn't save it, and then I would rate. It was just chaos, or I had to stay late. It was bad. So I can't remember. It was an educator that said that they do content Mondays, and that's what I do now. I use Mondays, so I'm off on Sundays and Mondays. I take every other Saturday off for my kids, but Mondays are dedicated for my content. And when I go into a Monday and have all these ideas and then am able to film all of it, it's actually very enjoyable because it's something that I have an idea of. And then like I'm by myself, which as you know, as a mom, it's like, oh, the alone time. It's amazing. But,
So amazing.
and then, in a way I'm having expression and, being artistic, but with editing and things like that. And it has, changed creating content for me is having devoted time for that, and then being able to stop whenever I want to. If I feel like I'm going in a flow of things, I'll film more, but I usually try to get at least 3 to 5 videos on a Monday, so that way on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I have, stuff that's already in my drafts, and, everyone's like, I usually do like a caption on it, and that takes some time that day, but I can do that in bed or whatever. But I really do think devoting that time for that content and not trying to squeeze it into your professional life or your family life, it's so much better.
Oh, wow. That's healthy. That's a
Mhm.
great healthy balance that you've created. So you go and you may film 10 videos on a Monday
Yes.
because you're taking the entire day and up into it's time to pick up your kids.
So I will try to. So usually I will say that I spend probably about 2 to 4 hours.
Oh,
Um,
that's not bad.
yeah, and if you go through most of my that one reel that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's like a 9 second, 10 second video, and that's a long one for me. I usually do really really short, um, you know, and it's like, the secret to the algorithm is short videos and long captions, because the plays are what, it's not the likes, it's not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
comments, it's not any of that, it's all the plays. So if somebody's reading this long caption and you have the LOL one, which is like 1 second long, you're continuously playing it while you're reading that caption. And that helps me out, and then that hopefully that educational caption helps them out.
Oh, god, perfect. Yeah, whoo, you figured it out. So
A
I'm
lot of
still in
research.
the weeds. I'm still in the weeds, honey, like in the weeds. I am spending a lot of time but I'm doing something a little different than what you're doing, while at the same time I would like to get a little bit of my life back, you know?
Yeah.
I parted ways with my social media manager only because um we've been working together since 2021. She's great. She
Mhm.
truly is. She's a flight attendant who does this on the side.
Oh, nice.
And she's one of my clients. It's her daughter. And so we've been working together since 2021 when I started Hair Genius Academy. And I thought I was encouraged by another guy who I was working with on media and branding and things to do courses. I didn't think I was an educator. I was like, well, no, I want a podcast. And he says, have you ever thought about creating a course? And I'm like, not really. And then Hair Genius Academy is born, and we're
Mhm.
filming all of these haircut videos and what I do and what I specialize in, which was great. Except the whole time I'm like, oh, do I have to do this? Because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, this is not enjoyable. Like it's already a lot of work. So if
Yeah.
you don't enjoy what you're doing and you don't understand your purpose for doing it, then you're just gonna crash and burn, right? It's
It's a
inevitable.
super easy burnout rate for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, like, especially if you're not enjoying it and making it fun for yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, it's and so I have a client who is a social media manager, and we're kind of trading services. And it is one of those things where she knows how to make somebody go viral. And so she's kind of giving me this like formula. But
Yeah.
then the problem is that I want to do more original content too. And that's not necessarily how to build really fast, because it's more
Right.
like, you want these like kind of fillery, like, oh, that's funny, let me share it kind of thing.
Yep.
But more my focus is education. And so I've
Right.
kind of figured it out with like the funny, and then, whatever that's related to, like the education part of it. But it is one of those things where I realized that I need to be more genuine with myself, because when I was following, and she gives me such great direction, I'm still working with her. But if I just am doing something to make myself, more popular, more followers, and it's this fillery stuff that I don't stand behind, I start getting burnout on it, and I feel kind of icky a little bit. So,
Yeah, because it's not coming from you, and that's
yeah.
the challenge when you're working with a third party at all, right? And it's your face, your branding, your
Mhm.
name. you're everything, but it's not you behind it necessarily going in and answering questions, because that's what she would do for me, go in and engage with other accounts, what
Mm-hmm.
have you. Um, and when I immersed myself into it by creating this show, then I started to teach myself, because I was kind of checked out of it, because I was like intimidated by social media, because I'm old and I didn't start with an iPad in my hand when I entered into this world. So, or a device of some sort, right?
Right.
So I'm like, this was foreign to me. So I had to really immerse myself into what it even means. Like, what are all these platforms and why, who cares? And, get past all of that. So then now I feel like I do have my own voice, and I do have the technical skills now
Mhm.
to engage and create and do all of the things. So that's part of the reason why I said, let me see how I do on my own. Because if I have a flight attendant going into a hairstylist page answering a question on my behalf, it's not how I would have answered that question.
Right.
And it is not her fault, because she's like,
Right.
well, I'm not a hair, I have no idea. And so
Right.
when you go in and you go into an ashy blonde, um, you know, um, photo, and you comment, oh, so vibrant. And then I look at it, I'm like, "Oh, it's okay."
Yeah.
It's not your fault.
Yes.
But if you did that on the Cowboy Copper page, that would have been better,
Right.
but it's okay, right? And
Yeah.
so I just felt like, it's time for me to take the reins. So it's all me moving forward. So yeah, I apologize in advance to anyone who follows me, because it's gonna be a hot mess a little bit, but we'll get there. So
I think everybody's kinda
what accounts are you on, or what platforms are you on? Are you on all of them? Are
no.
you
So
just
it so on Facebook, I feel like everybody has a Facebook account. But Instagram, that's it. I know a lot of people are telling me you should go on, TikTok. You'll do so well on TikTok. And every time I go on to TikTok, it is like the wild, wild west out there. Like the algorithm hasn't formed to me, so they're like showing me weird stuff,
yeah.
gross stuff. And I am like, literally, I'm on there for like 5 seconds. I'm like, I got to shut this down. Mm-mm. So I'm like, I will be like a normal, 40-year-old person, getting all the TikToks a few weeks later on Reels, right? Like,
Yes. Well, I tell you, they're right. You will do my best engagement is on TikTok and YouTube. So I decided I'm going to farm those two platforms and
mm,
then use the other ones passively.
mhm.
I find my guest through Instagram. I find
I
it easier
use
to
to a lot.
to reach out to people on Instagram, but you in particular, those short form funny videos, you will blow up on TikTok. You just will, and you will monetize if you want to
I,
go that route.
I
I'm
really,
not doing this to monetize so much. I mean,
mhm.
eventually it would be nice, but I set out to do this to give myself purpose again in our
Yeah.
industry. And
Mhm.
so you got to know why. Either
Yeah.
way it goes, right? Or you're going to get burnout. If you
Yeah.
don't know why you're doing something, are you doing it to build a clientele? Are you doing it to do it for a living because you watched Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and they
Yep.
make all their money on TikTok? I mean, why are you doing it? You have to know, right?
Yeah. That's what I talk to my assistant all the time is like, you have to know the why,
Mhm.
I use that phrase all the time
Yeah.
because if you don't, then you're kind of lost.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
wandering in the
Mhm.
shadows of all the people who do know why.
Yep.
You're just like,
Exactly.
"Meh."
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about your future goals. Do you have anything in the works, other collaborations other than this amazing collaboration? Thank you so much.
Yes.
Do you
Well,
have like where do you see yourself in 5 years or so? Because I feel like because there's a potential for you to have to relocate. What do you see for yourself? moving forward?
So, with all the moving, you know, the reason why my husband and I were attracted to each other is because we were both incredibly ambitious. And so when he was kind of moving, up in his industry, I was willing to move because I knew I could do this anywhere.
Mhm.
But my dream is to own not only just one salon, but salons. And so I kept, when we got here and we're at the headquarters of where he's at, so he has a lot of linear movement in one location. So it's like, we have to stay here. so,
Yeah.
um, so I see myself hopefully still being here in San Antonio, after so many years, but in the next year, I've actually already started looking at locations for larger salons, and but I don't. I want for me to open up a larger salon. I want to do it right.
Mhm.
So I want to find the right space. I want to find the right lighting. It took me a while to find this place with all the windows in it. Um, and so once I open up, the Trend Lab, like for the full salon, I want to have a really, really consistent education and basically create a brand. So um, every person that goes on the floor is going to be trained the same exact way, and have the same knowledge, color knowledge, everything, cut knowledge. So obviously, I don't want them to be robots and do exactly the same thing as their partner, but have the same base core education, which a lot of these big suites, people are coming straight out of school. So I feel like that's kind of a dying breed right now as an educational salon, where there's assistants and then those assistants
Yeah.
move up into the style. But that's how you create consistency, and that's how you create a brand. So hopefully, when I have all the chairs full and I have several other assistants that are being educated and they're ready for a new chair, I'll be able to open up my second location and then, continue on doing that. Big dreams. I would love to franchise, if I'm able to do that. I have a whole big old binder on, like, education, and that's how I was kind of raised, as a stylist going into Art and Science Salon. They have such a great education program, and when I was with them, they had 2 locations, and now they have 5 locations. But it's because they created such an amazing brand. And if you're going to go to the Lincoln Park one, the Wicker Park one, the Evanston one, Logan's, whatever they do, you're going to get the same exact service. And it's why Starbucks is so
That's right.
popular, is because if you go to either one, you're going to have the same drink made the same exact way. And that's kind of my goal for the next 10-20 years.
Well, I love that. I feel like you're gonna definitely get there for sure.
Well, thank
And,
you.
you have to have the business side down. I've been a salon owner in the past and it was successful, thank God. Um, it is a lot of work, but if you are passionate about it, if you go in with the end in mind, you do so much better. And I feel like that's true in business in general. You
Yes.
have to know. I always say my advice to new employees is when you set up your LLC, or new stylist, when you set up your LLC, set yourself up as an employee from the beginning, and your life just is so much easier after that. And you don't getting all that money in your hand like in your video, and you don't have track of every place those dollars are going, which most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I feel like the culture is, yeah, I get all this money and then I pay my taxes at the end and I save all my receipts. It's so much more than that if you actually want to build generational wealth.
Yes.
So, yes, I believe all of that's possible. And I love that you're taking it back to the foundation that we all started with, and that you did have educational salons. And I think that really makes a difference for our industry. I came from Tony and Guy, which was a franchise. I
Yes.
know how it
Yep.
works. And I know what the training was and what it took to be able to get on that floor and cut people's hair. And it doesn't matter who you get, you're going to get a great haircut, right?
Yep.
The only thing I think today that I would do different is I wouldn't departmentalize like we did back then, because I feel
Same.
like I've always worked kind of lopsided. I only knew how to cut, and now I'm learning how to color because I'm now by myself.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous when I've been in the industry for 29 years and
Yep.
I don't have a strong foundation. And if my clients are watching, I know how to color, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about if you haven't been doing it consistently for all of these years, I would have been so much better as a colorist had
Yep.
I been able to balance both cutting and color.
I think it worked out a little bit for me just for the fact that it took me 2 years to get onto the floor at Art and Science. And I learned so much about color and chemical and how it works and, what levels and texture and all that kind of stuff. And then, unfortunately, that's when my husband, we had to move. And so I was only on the floor for about a year before I left. And so when I moved to Denver, it gave me an opportunity to look for more cut education. And so I ended up going into another education program and basically working my way up with cut. So I could be more well-rounded. And I find that with the departmentalized salons, it's great for the business, not great for the stylist.
At all. At all. And what a blessing for you that, that's your blessing in disguise for having to relocate. You got all of these different points of views, from all of these different, areas of our nationwide, rather. You got different perspective, of how they do hair in Florida versus in Texas versus in Colorado, all these different points of views, and you that makes you a well-rounded stylist, which some people, if you're so niched, if you've only ever lived in the Midwest, then by golly, when you move to New York, you got a rude awakening, right? So
Yes.
because it's like my husband, he wants to leave the country altogether and live somewhere else. But me, I'm like, wait, horsey, like just slow your roll. But for me, at one point we live in Arizona. He wanted to live in South Carolina. And he said, you could just do hair there. I'm like, can I though? I don't know. I mean, I look at how they wear their hair and I don't think I want to, I don't know, no disrespect to anyone who lives, but different environment, different aesthetic, right?
Yeah, it is it's interesting because I don't shy away from telling people that I'm from certain places. And I do think clients
Judge
really like
you.
that.
Oh, they
Because,
like it. Okay.
yeah, they're just like, oh, well, she's from, Chicago, or she's from Denver, or she's
Oh no,
whatever.
they
And
eat that up.
yeah,
Oh,
and
they eat
and
it up.
and I do think because when I moved here, it took me 4 months to build up a full book, and that is so fast. Like
Super
everywhere else,
fast.
it has been, at least 1 to 2 years. And I think the reason why here is because San Antonio is a big city, but it kind of acts like a small city. And so when and they don't have a ton of educational salons. There's a couple, but not a ton. So all the stylists that are coming out of school here, they're, unfortunately, when they're new, they're learning on paying clients. And so, the people who are experienced and have been really well educated, there's only just a few pockets of them, right? So I feel like once I kind of came in and had, my background and, the knowledge with that, it was just word of mouth that people were like,
And you're
"Whoa,
somebody
this is
new.
awesome."
You're not from
New and
here. 'Cause
exciting, yeah.
people always take their stylists who are in their local area for granted. Like, oh, he's from New York. Or it's a guy altogether, right? Because women love male hairdressers. And I always have a bone to pick with males in our industry. I'm like, there are fewer of you than there are of us. Somehow you still dominate the industry.
I have some good stories about that, but I worked for somebody who was male and European, and um, he was like, basically, if you take like the stereotypical, like, very charismatic, very flamboyant, very just eccentric person, and then multiply it by 10, that's who he was. And because, like, with the European accent, and it's just like, and I'm like,
And
the
he just
blowout for, like,
played it
you
all
know,
up. He played it all up, right?
well,
He's
and
like,
he charged so much, and like, coming from as a color specialist, and he would use the same formula on every single client. I was horrified, but like, he was making just thousands and thousands of dollars because they weren't there for like his talent, they were there for the show.
oh,
And because,
1000%.
but like, if I came up to a person and was just like, "Oh, look at your hair," and like do this whole song and
And they'd
dance,
be
he'd be
like,
like,
"What's
"What's up
wrong
with
with
her?"
her?" Yeah.
Right, exactly. But then, because he's a guy, he can get away with it.
Oh, yeah, and I worked with a guy similar. He was not European, but he was a good-looking guy.
Mhm.
All of his clients were probably girls he had met at the club, you know what I mean? And then he
Yep.
came in, he'd have on, um, sunglasses and, but the kind you can see through. And, he'd have scarves and he's being all dramatic and over. I'm like, you know what? Like, literally, you just cut her hair into a bob. Like,
I
relax.
know.
But they're like, oh my
Oh,
God. And you could just see him just transforming, smizing at themselves in the mirror,
mhm.
with his hands just working through all. I'm like, oh my God, I can't.
Yep.
I cannot. So,
We'll have a reel about
Amy,
that.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I can't wait. Please make a reel about that. That would be
No,
so
I
fun.
actually already have one.
Oh, you
Like, I think
do?
the caption is like, female hairstylist versus male hairstylist.
I'll have to
Yeah,
go find it. I'll have to go
yeah,
find that
it's a
one.
little bit of an older one, but it's very similar with that.
I love it. What advice, Amy, do you have for new stylists coming into the industry? Boy, have things changed, and they've changed for the better, in my opinion. I am
Yep.
obsessed with this next generation. So excited
Yes,
to see
yes.
what they have to bring. What advice do you have for someone just getting out of beauty school coming into our amazing industry?
Um, Basically, just knowing that you don't know everything. I think a lot of people come out of beauty school right now and they are just like, I got this, like, I aced all of the things. Like, I was the best hairstylist in the school, and then they get thrown out in the real world and they realize that real humans have opinions, like, instead of mannequin heads. Um and I find that they kind of get themselves overwhelmed, and then sometimes will leave the industry because it's such a shock to the system. So I think knowing where your weaknesses are, and knowing that you'll never know everything. I mean, I've been in the industry for 15 plus years, but it's I don't know it all, and I don't want to know it all. Like,
Right.
once I know everything, I'm going to retire, because I think the most dangerous hairstylist in the industry is somebody who knows everything. But it's just getting education and really investing in that. And maybe you're not making as much money as the person next to you who went right into the salon and is working on clients, but investing in yourself and working hard and working underneath somebody who has been in the industry and knows how to talk to clients and knows how to do consultations and knows the different techniques for the different types of people, because they don't teach that in school.
Right.
Once you get that, you can be way more confident on the floor, and you can charge way more right out the gate. And I think that's the biggest thing with the hair industry now, is just, I do feel like the educational salons are a dying breed. So finding somebody, even if it's, because right now I'm in a suite and I still have a stylist, like, finding it doesn't have to be a huge salon, just
Right.
somebody who's going to be your mentor, who's going to really kind of educate you with not only pricing, But the business aspect of it, the different types of hair, I mean, it is invaluable, and that's how you start your career and move on. But if you don't start off the right way, it's tough to dig yourself out of that hole.
Yeah, I agree. And I would add to that, make sure when you are finding that seasoned stylist that you're going to learn from and assist, that you actually see your worth. You're helping them. So you're interviewing them just as much as
100%.
they're interviewing you, and ask them, because they'll tell you one thing but do another. So you want to make sure maybe you ask for references. Can I talk to your last assistant? I just want to talk to them and see what they learned. And that stylist, if she gets offended, move on. Ain't the right
Right.
one. Or
Yes.
they, just
Yes.
move on,
Yes.
because you
100%.
should be proud. You should be proud of the mentorship that you've given to someone, if that's what you offered, right? And so
You
you
want
should be more
somebody,
than willing.
yeah, somebody who wants to see you grow. And a lot of
Exactly.
with my apprentice, Celeste, it's Celeste underscore hair with 3 R's. She's amazing. You should definitely check her out. But when people are like, "Oh, where's your assistant?" I always say my apprentice, because
Yeah.
I don't want her to be my assistant forever. I'm helping her grow up to where, she can be on the floor and she can do amazing things. And then I can bring in somebody else that can learn from both of us. And I'm learning things from her.
Yeah.
It's
Next
somebody who
generation.
doesn't hold you under their thumb, because that creates toxic hairstylists, and I think it's like a chain reaction where they end up being awful like people
Yes.
to their assistants, and
True.
and so on and so on. So
No, great advice, Amy. Thank you so much. As we conclude this episode, because I know you are a busy mom, I am getting ready to do the funnest part of my show, which is my 60-second blowout.
yay.
Yes. The corniness of it all is what I love the most. 60-second blowout. I am getting ready to give you a rapid fire of questions that you don't know I'm going to ask.
Okay.
And I like to, now it's turned into a bit of a contest, because 2 people now have gotten through all of my questions in 60 seconds. So let's
Okay.
see if you become the third. We
My
shall see.
long-windedness. Okay.
Ah! But you know what? You wouldn't be the only one.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. And I have a new guest, my crown, because I am the game girl, the queen of all the games.
Love it.
So let's introduce her to the party. Okay. She's not as cute with glasses, but we're going to go with her
I
anyway.
love it.
What's the most hilarious thing you've done while sleep deprived?
Oh gosh, probably mixing the ratio wrong, or having 2 different bowls and switching them.
Dream vacation destination.
Grease.
If you had to cut hair with one hand tied behind your back, how would you do it?
I wouldn't.
Texting or phone calls?
Texting.
If you could only use one hair product for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Like a serum.
What's your guilty go-to pleasure snack?
Chocolate all the way.
Would you rather have a bad haircut or a bad color for a week?
Bad color.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Invincibility.
Worst hair trend you've ever seen?
Calico hair. Ugh.
If your life was a movie, what would the title be?
Chaotic mess.
Love it. All righty. Well, I'd say you did pretty good. I think
get to the
that
questions?
that was unfair, because I asked you longer questions.
Oh.
So if we ever do this again, I will give you a fair advantage and shorten the questions. But those, I just wanted them to be fun for you, because you have
Oh,
a
they're
fun
fun.
personality.
Yes.
It was so nice to chat with you. Had an amazing time chatting with you and learning all about your story.
I had so much fun.
Yay. Okay. So I guess I will see you on the other side of the screen when I'm stalking your Insta.
All right. That sounds great.
Okay. See you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, I have to ask you, where can people find you? What are all the socials? Where can they find Amy Whitaker? More of your content.
It's pretty easy. Hair by Amy W on Instagram. Hair by Amy W on Facebook. You can email me at hairbyamyw at gmail.com. But most of my stuff is coming through Instagram right now. But I might have to do the TikTok for what you were saying before.
No, 1000. You do.
It'll be
Until
the Hair by Amy W. I really hope that it's available.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's hope so. It will be. I'm
Yeah.
telling it to be.
Mhm.
Until next time, Amy. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.